All right, so yeah, now we're recording.
Okay.
So I guess this is episode 2 of our quest through Earthbound Beginnings, which is Mother. Um, the prequel to Earthbound, as we know in America. Um, and so last time we had just saved Pippi, and we had returned to talk to the mayor, who gave us a key to what the not the zoo itself, but the headquarters of the zoo? I don't know. Or the
I think it's a little confusing whether you need the key in the first place. Well, so you definitely need to do that portion of the quest.
Okay.
Like rescuing Cookie seems to trigger the zoo being a place you can get into, but you don't actually use the key, right? Because the monkey steals it from you, and then you check the gate, and it turns out the gate's been broken the whole time, and you just go in. It's like,
Well, okay.
uh,
Yeah, so I guess that's one of those again kind of subversions of, it's a very structured way of progressing through a game. You have to get the key to open up the gate, and then it's like you get to the gate and it's like, oh, actually a monkey's already there and it has broken. And so yeah, I mean, I guess it's just kind of more of Shigesato Itoi being playful kind of with the tropes of many other RPGs.
yeah, yeah. And so I was reading a little bit about that. There's an article or what's it called interview somewhere that he does. Maybe there's more than one of these where he talks about some of the inspiration behind the game. And he's specifically cites Dragon Quest as something he was playing at the time. Um, and in the interview I was reading, he also mentions his asthma. So you know that person in town who talks to you about your asthma?
Yes.
Yeah, so apparently that's like a reference to Itoi and like what he went through as a kid. Um, and so, and as an adult too, I guess, because he was like, he would sit up late at night and he'd feel like he had nothing to do except just read books or play video games. And so he specifically singles out Mario as being like the game he played the most,
Hmm.
but then also Dragon Quest. Like somebody gave him this game and he thought he had like really low expectations. He didn't think it would be something he'd get into. But then he ended up like getting addicted and really liking it. So then he thought to himself like, well, I'll just make one that I like better. That's on the face of it more interesting game. And so Mother is what he comes up with, and he pitches it to Shigeru Miyamoto, the Mario creator, of course, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like this huge moment of all these things like coming together, and then he obviously puts a lot of himself into the game, like a lot of you know more um, obvious things like the asthma, like a literal piece of himself, and then just like the way that his sense of humor comes through, right? Like just uh, you needed this key to get to the zoo, but actually um, you can walk right in.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing, right? The zoo animals have all escaped. Like as you walk around, all the cages are broken.
Yeah.
So,
So I guess, as we were talking about our playthrough and where we were going to stop, you mentioned Canary Village, which I completely somehow missed. Um,
uh,
so I don't know. Did you go to Canary? So, let's take a step back. We get back, we get the key to the zoo. Did you go directly to the zoo? Did you do anything before you walked there? I personally um, went back home
mhm.
uh, to sleep and I guess refill my PP because uh, I had spent money on the wooden bat. I didn't have enough to stay at the hotel, so I decided to
Oh,
trek
right.
up. So I decided to trek up there, and I ran into Pippi, and she gave me the Franklin badge.
Right.
Um,
Yes, that's important. You got to get that.
yes, well,
It turns out that you definitely need that
well,
later
so
on.
far I haven't needed it yet.
What?
For whatever reason, I don't know if I just missed this in Earthbound, but I never made the connection that it was like the Ben Franklin badge, and that's why it was resistant to lightning bolts and electricity.
Well, that's the weird thing about it though, because in my fight with the Starman Junior, he uses a move that would kill you in one hit. I'm pretty sure, unless you have the Franklin badge with you.
Huh.
Um, so when when you say Franklin, yeah, it's supposed. I guess it's supposed to be Ben Franklin because yeah, in Earthbound, it deflects lightning from Mr. Carpenter, right? But
Yes.
in this game, it deflects beam attacks, which I don't know, doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's cool. I mean, close
Yes.
enough to lightning, I guess.
Well, yeah, right. So, I mean, I read the description of the Franklin badge, and it specifically said Ben Franklin um,
Yeah.
in it. So that's like a clear, obvious reference to that. Uh, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I don't know if I reflected any of the beam attacks by the Starman Junior when I was playing through because they weren't.
He Yeah, he uses two different ones. So if he uses the alpha, it'll hit you and it hurts a lot and it
Yeah,
sucks. But if he uses the gamma, there's a beam gamma that he uses, and that one is the one that it reflected for me. So maybe I just got lucky. I don't know, but it doesn't hurt him though, which was really annoying. Like it would have
right.
been very satisfying if it would have just one-shotted him too, but it has no effect on him. But it does at least preserve your life in those situations when that PK beam gamma comes at you. So anyway, but yeah, I went back, visited everyone, talked to everyone again. I checked to see if like the bridge would be open yet. It wasn't open yet.
No.
I couldn't find the zoo for a very long time, and so like not finding Canary Village, I had a hard time just like figuring out where to go. But Canary Village is actually on the way to the zoo, the way that I went at least. Um, there's like kind of a circle like that uh, with like your house is basically like the center point of this big circle
Okay.
that you can trek around. And if you go, you go down towards Podunk, then you hang, I guess, to the left, to the west,
Hang
right?
a
Yeah.
Lu-
So then
hang
you
a
go west,
hang a Louie.
hang a Louis, and you'll run into Canary Village way over there in the west.
Okay.
But then you swing up from there, and you come to the zoo, and then if you keep going around the big circle, then you go to our next destination, um, off to the northeast.
That's
Uh, yeah, yeah,
that's interesting because yeah, when I was playing it, I felt like the zoo was very easy to find. So, I guess I was starting from Podunk and I just kind of went
yeah,
north and,
yeah,
you make a right at a certain point and then that's the bridge that says like, you can't go through here. The curfew's still in effect. But if you go up to this other bridge, like you might be able to get through. Um,
right.
and then, yeah, you run into a sign. Yeah. Obviously since I missed Canary Village, maybe was there any clues that we were supposed to go to Canary Village? I don't know. Like I'm starting to think like maybe this game isn't the best at holding your hand and telling you exactly where to go next.
No, I mean, the only thing that suggests it is if, like you said, you go to the top floor of the department store and the only pet that they have for sale is the canary chick.
Right.
So there's no like obvious use for it, but um, something about that definitely feels very video gamey, right? Like this is the key to do something. I just have to find where this key will fit. Um, and so I don't know. Yeah, you just explore enough, and you'll eventually um, find that thing. When you go in Canary Village, it's kind of weird. It's like there's not much there.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of birds who won't talk to you.
Okay.
And then there's one guy, there's one human there, and he'll say that there's a singing canary, but she's gone missing. She hasn't been singing lately. Um, and I don't know if I just missed it the first time, but I think she doesn't appear until after you do the zoo thing. Um, and then there's kind of like a secret passage to get to where she's hanging out.
Huh.
Um, it's pretty interesting. It's like again, it sort of like uses the mechanics of the game, and this time it's the graphics. So like the way that things are displayed on screen presents a like a hint to like find your way back to where the singing canary is hanging out. Um, and sure enough, she gives you one of the melodies. So
Okay.
you got to
Yeah.
do it before the end of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So after you mentioned it to me, I looked it up online. Um, at least to see like what you get from there. I was like, well, obviously I feel like I can progress the game. We went to
Yeah,
wherever we used telepathy, and so now I'm in. I don't know what that area is called. It's kind of like Magic
I
Can't.
know what it's called.
Okay,
It's
well,
Magic Cat.
is it Magic
Yeah,
Can't? All right.
it
Um,
is. It is. How could you not recognize it?
well, I thought it was. I just wasn't sure if this had a different
Yeah.
name, but I guess playing Metroid and my sequence breaking has carried over to this game since I missed something. Um, but yeah, I guess taking a step back to the zoo. One thing I found odd is like you know I- the enemies in Earthbound always seemed very whimsical. Um,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't just like a mouse. It was like a rowdy mouse, and he was wearing like sunglasses and stuff. Like here, you're fighting like hyenas, just like legit
Yeah.
hyenas that escaped from a zoo, or the alligators with really weird uh, pixel art. Um, I don't
They're
know.
terrifying.
Yeah, well, yes, a lot more terrifying than the ones that stand on their tail in Earthbound. Um,
Yeah.
luckily, no exploding oaks, but yeah, I mean, I think just like the amount of different enemies that you're even fighting. Um, in the zoo alone, I think you had like flies that you were fighting,
Hmm.
hyenas, tiger, uh, alligators. I know I'm missing some. A gorilla.
There's the
Um,
gorilla and the elephant.
yes, yes. Which
Dude, the tiger is so mean. It killed me like every time I fought it. So if I fought it, like I pretty much just gave up all hope. Uh, I ran from those battles if I could, but it hits with a continuous attack. It's just not fair. Not
oh,
fair.
interesting. I don't.
You
I,
didn't get the continuous attack? Oh,
I so it took me at least like so. I think I tried to fight the zoo, probably died twice, and then you go back to wherever your last save spot. So I guess I was in the hotel in
yeah.
Podunk. Eventually, I bought the wooden bat for the low price of I think $500.
Right.
And then I went back and I was able to get like progress a little bit further.
Hmm.
But then I died a couple more. Well, then I died again, and I thought that I had lost the wooden bat because I didn't save and all my money, and I almost gave up on the game. But then I realized that it has a very weird, like, if you equip your weapon, it's
Yes.
no longer in your inventory. So that's what I was confused about.
Right. Right.
But then when I checked like my state, I was like, oh no, I'm fine. All right, fair enough. I don't care if I lose money. I just needed the bat. So yeah, you go through the zoo. Um, eventually you make it to was it the zookeeper's house?
Yeah, it's like the headquarters.
Yeah. Um, and then I guess, so yeah, that maybe, I don't know what level I'm at. I think like maybe like 8 or 9 at this point.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that seems about right. I think I have like 1,000 experience points. I crossed the 1,000 XP threshold, so I was pretty pleased with that.
So
Um,
I have a question. Obviously you have a weapon that you can equip. Is there other like armor or anything like that you can equip at this point?
good, good question. If there is, I haven't found it.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if there is somewhere. Yeah, because you don't need to equip the Franklin badge
Right.
in order to have it work. It has to be sitting in your inventory. Yeah, the wooden bat definitely crucial. Gotta have that. Um, but aside from that, yeah, I don't think there's any armor or like helmets or amulets or anything like that so far.
So
Um,
I think on my third or fourth trek up towards the zoo, there's like a bunch of bridges that you can just start walking across, and I don't know where the heck they lead. But eventually, I ended up going very north towards the edge of the map, and that's actually the first time that I ran into a little saucer,
yeah,
which I guess is the first time that at least I was experiencing any kind of uh, not from this world type enemy. Um,
exactly.
which I'm surprised the reveal is kind of this early in the game. Um, naturally, a lot
Yeah.
later than it was in Earthbound, but
Right.
I guess that explains why your lamp is attacking you in your room. um,
Yeah.
and then why the animals are all going crazy. And then eventually, I guess, you finally, after many trials and tribulations, you make it to the zookeeper's room, and that's when you run into this weird pill-looking capsule that's just in the zookeeper's room. Um,
Yes.
and then you approach it, and then that's when you start with the battle with the Starman Junior.
I know. I know. It's such a creepy lead up, I feel like, too, because like you go in all these different rooms
Yeah.
in the HQ, right? And there's nothing in some of them, and there's a present box in other ones.
Yep.
So it sort of sets you up to like, on the one hand, feel like this is a very eerie place, and there's definitely something behind this door. But on the other hand, it's like all the enemies there are way weaker than everything you fought up to that point through the
Right.
zoo. So it
Right.
kind of like takes you let your guard down a little bit too. And then, like I said, I think Starman Jr. can just one shot you if you haven't got the Franklin badge. Like, I have to imagine, because his attacks are really powerful. He uses, PK attacks, so he's like the first being other than Ninten that seems to have that power, right? Um, you, so far, have just been basically brute forcing your way through. But this time, I like tried using some of my other psi attacks, like defense up I
Yep.
had at that point, which helped a lot, I think. Um, I tried hypnotizing some of the big fat enemies, um, and they would wake up, and it wouldn't be worth it. So I didn't bother trying hypnotizing the Starman Junior. He looked pretty like he would just dodge that attack anyway. Also, so anyway, yeah, he's sort of like scrawny looking, but definitely packs a wallop. Uh, and you don't actually defeat him so much as he like just leaves at a certain point, right? He like this little capsule floats away, and it says like the strange noise that was driving the animals crazy has stopped. So
Right.
then the zoo is safe again. You don't have to fight any of those hard enemies, at least
Yes.
for a little while.
Yes.
That's
And
nice.
so yeah, so it basically confirms the fact that it is this weird being. I guess technically we don't know if it's from this a different world or whatever, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
is the one who's kind of causing this effect on all the animals. Um, and I guess as you're leaving, there's one cage with a singing monkey.
Oh yeah, that's quite important.
Yeah.
I don't know
So
if it's the same monkey that stole the key, but it is definitely a thing you need to check on your way out.
yeah. So I guess I spoke to the monkey or checked the monkey or whatever. And yeah, so it started singing something. The screen had a kind of weird flash at it. And it said, I think Nintendo remembered that tune.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I guess that's what the first melody that you're supposed to get in the game.
No, because you've already done the one in the doll, right?
Oh, wait,
You
have
didn't
I?
actually do the melody for the doll? I think you must have. I think it tells you basically have to, right? I mean, um, maybe you have to check it twice, but I think when you check the doll and there's the music box in it, it plays a little song and it does the same little animation.
Interesting.
Um, Yeah, you should check in your status screen, and
Yeah,
it'll have little music notes. And if you've got the first and the third, um, the second is the canary. So
bummer. All right.
you
Well,
might
I
have
guess
to
I.
go back to the canary eventually.
Yeah, I guess so. That's unfortunate.
It's not that far from your house, it could be worse.
Um, yeah, it's not as bad as when I first played Earthbound, and what was it, the carrot key that you could use
Ooh,
in
yeah, there's a
Pooh?
lot of places that you can get. Well, yeah, it's you can miss doing the caves near Happy Village too. Um,
Yeah, but I just
you don't
completely
have to
didn't.
complete that.
Well, yeah, I didn't do the carrot key stuff in Pooh's village.
Hmm, hmm.
And so the underworld, or I forget the name of it, was like extremely brutal to go through. It was very hard. I was like, man, this is like a huge like difficulty spike. And then I was like, oh wait, because I skipped one of the bosses and I did this out of order. Okay, well whatever. Um, but yeah, so all right. Well, um, I guess I'll have to put a pin in the Canary Village because, as we were saying, after you defeat the Starman Junior, you talk to the monkey on the way out to get your melody. It's time to move on to a weird cave. It appears. You go
Yes.
east. You talk to the police. Are they supposed to let you through?
It seems like they like recognize that you have telepathic powers. I don't know. It's very strange. Yeah.
Because when you
Because one of
talk,
them tells you about the cave, and one tells you that people in town are talking about you, and that you should like use your telepathy to find out, or something like. It's something weird like that. Um,
yeah, if you talk to the police officers at the bridge, like a little bit south, before then, they're like, yeah, you're not allowed to go without the curfew, but like the people up north are like letting kids go through anyway.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's another commentary, just kind of on government and police in
Maybe.
America, according to Shigesato Itoi. Um,
I
I
don't know.
it's yeah, I don't know. I doubt it, especially back then. But maybe it's just kind of more of a commentary on kind of just like the loose enforcement in these kind of podunk towns um,
Maybe.
in general.
Yeah. It's. I mean, um, it's very nice of them, I think, to let you through, but there isn't anything past them except that cave, and that's a dead end, right? So I don't know
What exactly they're
unless like
guarding?
in yeah, like why are they guarding that bridge? Um, so yeah, if
so so
if you yeah, if you have the diary with you, you didn't leave that with your sister, right? So you have to keep it because you have to be able to like answer a mystery that's posed by the mysterious thing in the cave. Um,
interesting. I do still have it was the GGF diary.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I read somewhere that they were going to include with the game a basically like a strategy guide that would have been the diary. So they were gonna um, like have this whole aesthetic of the great grandfather's diary um, as it's sort of like the Earthbound Player's Guide is like this travel guide, So it's kind of a shame. I don't think that any of that has survived. But maybe one will turn up somewhere, like a prototype of the diary.
That's yeah, no, that's a bummer because that's a really cool idea
I know.
because especially with how they kind of knocked it out of the park with the Earthbound one with the travel guide. Because yeah, I mean that was super charming. I enjoyed just reading that without even playing the game.
I know. I know. So down there in the cave, it asks you. Uh, well, I don't know. You're kind of stuck, right? So you do what you do in these games, which is like try all your different options. Um, and the thing that works is doing telepathy on the stone. And
Yes,
it looks kind of like the stone is marked with two X's, right?
yes.
Which, like, genetically speaking, is female, right? The XX chromosomes.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
I think that's what that refers to, although I don't know, could just be a coincidence. But anyway, so then you're like communicating with this other mind, and it telepathically asks you like a riddle about who lost its tail, and this prompts you to look in the diary. As a player, you don't have to do this part. Nintendo just automatically opens up the diary to the page that has that one phrase that you can read when you look at the diary, which is like um, yeah, something about uh, a ship that sails through the stars or something like that. Um, so all of that is pretty cryptic, but apparently that is like the uh, the clue or the password or something to get to Magic Camp.
Huh.
So
Okay. All
yeah, I
right.
want to look that up. I want to get that right.
Well, so I
Um,
mean, I think it's while you look that up, I guess I'll just kind of think about bringing in the kind of the XX and the female. Um, we know that the great grandfather disappeared with the great grandmother, who
Yes.
was never seen again. So, you know, the female who's never seen, and now there's this weird formation in a cave with XX on it, um, on a rather
Yeah. Here's
phallic type symbol as well. It's kind of
it.
weird. Anyway,
It says, okay, so who has lost his tail? The forgotten one of the ship that sails the cosmos. Um, yeah, very strange. Um, so
it's a
you've got
comet.
yeah, you've got the image of a shooting star, basically, right?
Yep.
Yeah, comet maybe. Um, so the game, the sequel starts with the meteor hitting Earth, um, and I don't know. Yeah, you've got this idea that the tail is missing from it. So this is like a uh, a modified or even a disabled comet of some kind. It's a little, yeah, a little strange
It's like a comet that's not
because
moving anymore, right? And that's kind of what
yeah,
creates
right,
the
maybe,
tail.
yeah.
It also reminds me of the riddles that they used to post on, was it Earth Starman.net?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, they had a riddle page. Yeah, that was awesome. Mm,
um, yeah.
maybe they still do.
Oh, I'm sure
Who
they still
knows?
do. I just haven't been there in a long time. Um, yeah. So you use your telepathy, and then you end up in this weird world. Um,
Right.
I think you're fully clothed, right?
Yeah,
You're
although
not.
that might just be in the U.S. version.
Yeah. Are you wearing your pajamas? I forget. I don't.
No, I don't think there's any change to the sprite this time.
Yeah. Okay.
They're so tiny, it'd be hard to tell anyway.
Uh, yeah. So I didn't do much exploring as soon as I got to Magic Hand. I just, luckily, playing it on the Wii U, I just created like the restore point. Um,
Oh yeah.
so that makes it a lot easier to kind of just like continue through. Um, which does make the game think that I've been playing it like without ever turning it off. So I do get the calls from the dad who's like, "Do you want to maybe take a break?"
Yeah, um uh do you get homesick in this game?
I haven't yet. I don't think.
Okay.
Um,
That's the thing.
I know the one hippie uses the bullhorn to like imitate your mother calling you for like coming home, and that like lowers
That's
your defense or
strange.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I will
Yeah.
say like Earthbound, like you start off with the meteor crashing and like a lot of weird stuff happening. But then it kind of like normalizes relatively quickly after that kind of like weird beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this game just like kind of started off and it's like, I mean, obviously the lamp is attacking you before you even leave the house, and then like I don't know, it the pacing seems to be a little bit different in terms of the story. Um,
No, definitely. Yeah. And I don't know if that's um like it, I guess I don't know quite how to think about that. Yeah, like if it's Itoi trying to imitate more of a Dragon Quest style story, um, where there's this like punishing difficulty, and it's a lot to do with just like leveling and getting from place to place, um, versus Earthbound. It seems like there's a little bit more uh, of a forgiving, um, like have fun exploring kind of thing. Like they lean into that a little bit more, but I'm not sure, or maybe it's just that it's the first game, right? And so they don't quite have the pacing figured out just yet.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, and I
I
also
don't know.
think the limitations of the hardware. Also, I think probably hold this game back a little bit, at least in terms of, I'm looking at the map of like Canary Village and the cemetery and like the zoo, and it's like they all look the same. right? Like
Hmm.
the sprites are all like basically the same. It's like, wow, it's hard to differentiate these places, even when you're just walking around Podunk and exploring. Like I was on these bridges, and I'm like, wait, I was just on this bridge. I feel like it's hard to differentiate. I'm not going to hold that
Right.
against the game. Again, I think that's just a limitation of the time. But it can be a little bit disorienting. But I guess my
Yeah.
question is, if we already have, well, you already have three of the melodies, and I should have three of the melodies, and there's only eight in this game. Um, how, how
Well,
much longer is
well,
this
so I
game?
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Well, if you look at the map, we've explored a very small part of it, right?
Well,
It's
yeah,
pretty big.
exactly.
And so that's what I don't know. I think that there's some definite, uh, you know, clustering here,
Yeah.
and you can miss these melodies too. So maybe that's intentional, like to try to force the player to come back and explore more thoroughly later. Um, I don't know. I I do think we have quite a bit of game left, but yeah, in terms of melodies, I think we're almost halfway there. I think you get another one in Magic Hand, although I don't know if it's the next one or if it's one of the last ones. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, so far, now that we have life up, um, it makes it a little bit easier to go through the game. Um,
Oh, very much. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So now it's kind of starting to pick up, and it's getting a little bit more. Um, it's less just checking like auto fight, basically. A little bit more
Right.
engaging. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what Magic Kent has ahead of us. I guess this weekend we'll try to get through to. I don't know if you get to it first. Let me know where you stop, or if I get to it
Sure.
first, I'll let you know where I stop.
Yeah, I think playing about an hour seems like the right amount. I mean, and I can't remember what's after Magic Can't, but I'm assuming that we're about to meet a new friend. I'm thinking that's going to happen pretty soon because so if you do go back and talk to the receptionist at the mayor's, at City Hall,
Hmm.
she says like up until this point she always says like talk to me later. I'll tell you a secret. Talk to me later. I'll tell you a secret. So she finally tells you um, something about like there's a girl with strange powers.
Yes.
Um, so it seems to indicate that in the next town that we get to, we'll probably meet our first party member. Who's going to join up for more time than Pippi did.
Well, I'd hope so because our time with Pippi was way too short.
I know.
Although she was pretty useless, if I'm going to be honest. So,
But you'd have to level up. That's all.
uh, yeah, yeah. I guess she just kind of. Well, I was going to say the characters that start with a P, but I guess Pooh's pretty good. So, um, I was thinking.
Paula,
Oh yeah, I guess
come
Paula. I
on.
didn't even think of Paula.
Pokey is terrible, obviously. But,
Well, I mean,
um,
I don't know. He kind of had a point. He had a tough life.
yeah. Yeah, there's no rival character so far, at least. So that's one big difference.
Um, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Where I guess in Earthbound, you kind of had the parallel, right? You had the one kid who's it, coming out of like an ordinary village is to be the hero, but I guess on the other side of the coin, you had like the same, but for like the villain coming out of there. So we also don't have any weird statues that we're following around trying to figure out why they have mystical powers. Um,
Right.
yeah, so I mean, like, yeah, so far, I guess the mystery of this game is a lot greater. Really
Yeah,
have no idea what's going on.
yeah, yeah. Uh, I love that about though. It's yeah, it takes you back to those days of just like not knowing what's going on, and just having to explore and try everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, I think this is a good stopping point for now. So I'm going to stop this.